The Galactic Council, a powerful assembly of leaders who had controlled the fate of countless worlds, sat in a vast, gleaming hall. Their seats were arranged in a perfect circle, with each leader representing a different part of the galaxy. Each member was powerful, their minds sharp and cold, with centuries of experience ruling over the stars. But today, something felt different. A decision had to be made, one that would change everything. Earth, a small planet in a distant part of the galaxy, had become a concern. Its growing technological power, combined with a rebellious nature, made it a dangerous unknown. It was a planet full of potential to either become a valuable ally or a deadly enemy. The debate had been long and heated. Some of the galactic leaders believed Earth had the potential to join their empire and bring new strength to the galaxy. They spoke of peace, cooperation, and the benefits of uniting the planet with the greater galactic order. But there were others who disagreed. They argued that Earth's unpredictable nature, combined with its rapidly advancing technology, made it too much of a threat. If Earth were allowed to continue growing, it could challenge the delicate balance that had been established over millennia. Some feared that Earth's rise might inspire other planets to rebel, and the entire empire could collapse. After much discussion, the Council reached a decision. Earth's fate was sealed. The orders were clear. Earth would be destroyed. A specialized team, made up of the deadliest agents in the galaxy, would be sent to carry out the execution. The weapon was already prepared. The Annihilation protocol had been in place for years, just in case such a moment came. A series of satellites equipped with powerful weapons would unleash total destruction on Earth. No one would survive. It was the simplest, most efficient solution to the growing threat. As the decision was made, there was a brief moment of silence in the council room. Some leaders nodded solemnly, understanding the necessity of the action. Others looked uneasy, unsure if it was truly the right choice. There was one leader, however, who didn't speak. He was the youngest and least experienced, but his instincts were sharp. As the others talked about how best to execute the plan, he couldn't shake the feeling that something was wrong. Something about Earth's situation didn't sit right with him. But he kept his thoughts to himself. To speak out now would be seen as a weakness, and his career could be over before it even began. Still, he couldn't ignore the gnawing feeling in the back of his mind. Was Earth really as dangerous as they believed, or was there something more at play? He couldn't be sure, but one thing was clear. If they destroyed Earth, they might be making a terrible mistake. Before the decision was final, a strange event occurred. As the leaders were preparing to give the command, a sudden disturbance rippled through the communication network. A signal had come through, coming from a source they couldn't identify. It was faint, barely detectable, but it was there. The signal was not like anything they had ever encountered before. It wasn't a simple distress call, nor was it a message from another known species. This was something different, something ancient. The young leader's heart raced as he listened to the strange transmission. The others didn't seem to notice, too focused on the task at hand. But the leader couldn't ignore it. The message was clear, though its meaning was unclear. It spoke of an impending threat, something far worse than Earth. It spoke of an ancient force that had been dormant for eons, but was now waking up. This was no ordinary threat. It was a dark power, far older and more dangerous than any of them could comprehend. The message warned that if Earth was destroyed, it could unleash this ancient power into the galaxy. The consequences would be catastrophic. The young leader couldn't believe what he was hearing. How could this be? Why had they not known about this? He glanced around the room, but no one seemed to be paying attention. The transmission continued, its strange tones filling his mind with a sense of dread. He had to act. He quickly accessed the communication system, trying to trace the source of the message. But it was too late. The signal had already been cut off. His mind raced as he weighed his options. Should he speak up? Should he warn the council? But then he thought about his position. He was new. His voice didn't carry much weight in the council. If he said anything, it could ruin him. And what if the message was just a warning from a faction looking to undermine their decision? What if it wasn't real? The Council had spent hours debating, and they had all agreed on Earth's destruction. There was no turning back now, not without risking everything. But something about it didn't feel right. He couldn't shake the feeling that they were missing something important, something that could cost them dearly. He didn't trust the message, but he didn't trust the decision either. He couldn't remain silent. He tapped his communication device, sending a private message to one of the senior members of the Council, someone he had trusted. He explained what had happened and asked for a moment of reconsideration, just a small pause to investigate further. But the senior member's reply was cold and dismissive. The decision had been made. Earth would be destroyed. The young leader felt a pang of frustration, but there was nothing he could do. The Council's decision was final. They would carry out the execution. The weapons were already being deployed. Soon, Earth would be nothing but a memory. The young leader sat back in his seat, his mind in turmoil. He didn't know what to believe anymore. Had he made the right choice by sending the message, or was he just complicating things for no reason? As the hours passed, the final preparations for Earth's destruction were set into motion. The fleet was ready, and the weapons were primed. The agents who would carry out the Annihilation protocol were on standby. In just a matter of hours, the orders would be carried out, and Earth would be gone. It seemed like the inevitable conclusion, but deep down, the young leader couldn't shake the feeling that this wasn't the end. He couldn't explain it, but he knew that something else was coming, a force far greater than anything the Council could anticipate. And if they went through with the destruction of Earth, they might be unleashing something far more dangerous than any of them had imagined. The Council's decision was made. Earth's fate was sealed. But as the agents prepared to depart for the final mission, the young leader couldn't help but wonder, had they made a terrible mistake? Or was this just the beginning of something much larger, something that would change the galaxy forever? He didn't know the answers, but he couldn't ignore the feeling that the galaxy was on the verge of something catastrophic, and Earth was at the center of it all. The Galactic Council's decision had been made, and Earth was on the brink of destruction. But on Earth, there was no awareness of the impending doom. Life continued as usual on the blue planet. People went to work, children went to school, and the world turned as it always had. What the citizens of Earth didn't know was that a team of elite agents was already en route to execute the final order. Their mission was simple: annihilate Earth, wipe it off the map, and prevent its growing influence from becoming a galactic threat. They were the finest the galaxy had to offer, trained in combat, espionage, and tactical warfare. No one was more capable of erasing an entire world from existence. But as they neared Earth's orbit, the agents felt an unease they couldn't explain. The young leader's warning echoed in their minds, but it was too late to turn back now. On Earth, amidst the daily hum of life, a small group of individuals was about to change the fate of the planet. They were scientists, hackers, and a few daring souls who had never fully trusted their governments. They had always believed that there was something bigger out there, something hiding just beneath the surface of what the public knew. They had been intercepting strange signals for months, data that didn't belong to any known species, not even from Earth. At first, they thought it was just an anomaly, a glitch in the system. But as the signals grew more consistent, they realized they were dealing with something far more serious. It was one of these scientists, Dr. Emily Harris, who first decoded a strange transmission. The message was short, but its implications were enormous. The message warned Earth of an imminent galactic threat, a force that had already made its decision to eliminate them. But it didn't stop there. The transmission continued, speaking of an even greater danger that would follow if Earth were destroyed. This ancient force, which had been dormant for eons, was stirring. If Earth fell, this dark power would rise and consume everything in its path, not just Earth, but the entire galaxy. Dr. Harris stared at the screen in disbelief. The transmission wasn't just a warning, it was a plea for help. The voice on the other end had known about the Galactic Council's plans. It knew that Earth was marked for destruction, and it seemed desperate to prevent it. But what did it all mean? Could they trust this message? Was Earth really the cause of the coming danger, or was the galaxy's greatest threat something much older and more powerful than they had realized? Emily quickly gathered a small team of trusted colleagues. They were a mix of experts, engineers, cryptographers, and even a few military veterans who had experience in dealing with unconventional situations. Together, they began to dig deeper into the origins of the message, trying to trace its source. Every new discovery raised more questions. The transmission was coming from somewhere deep within space, far outside the reach of the Galactic Council's control. It was too far for any Earth-made technology to have sent, which meant it had to be from something or someone far more advanced. And there was one more thing. The voice that had sent the message wasn't human. It was something alien, something ancient. The team worked tirelessly, trying to figure out a way to communicate with the mysterious source. But their efforts were constantly thwarted by the sheer complexity of the alien technology. Just as they were about to give up, they received another transmission. This time, it was different. It wasn't a warning or a plea. It was an invitation. The message came with coordinates, a location far out in space, beyond the reach of the Galactic Council's fleets. The message explained that there was a chance, a slim one, that they could stop the destruction of Earth. But it would require an alliance with someone inside the Galactic Council. There was one individual who had secretly opposed the execution order, someone who had reached out to Earth in hopes of finding a way to stop it. But the risk of contacting him was enormous. The Council was known for its ruthlessness. If they discovered that someone inside was betraying them, they would act swiftly and without mercy. Emily and her team debated their options. Could they trust the voice from the transmission? Could they trust the mysterious figure within the Galactic Council? But as they discussed it, one thing became clear. Earth had no other choice. They had to reach out. They had to take the risk. The alternative was complete annihilation. As the team prepared to send a message to the Galactic Council member, they were unaware that the Council's agents had already arrived. The agents had made their way into Earth's orbit and were beginning their final approach. The Annihilation Protocol had been activated. Earth's military was on high alert, but there was no way to fight back against an attack that came from the sky. The destruction would be quick, precise. Earth's fate was sealed, or so it seemed. But something strange began to happen. The closer the agents came to Earth, the more they sensed an unusual energy in the atmosphere. It wasn't like anything they had ever encountered. It felt as though the very fabric of space was shifting, vibrating with an energy they couldn't explain. They had trained for every scenario, prepared for every eventuality. But this was different. The strange energy seemed to draw them in, pulling them toward Earth's surface, and with it came the same feeling of dread that had haunted the young galactic leader. Suddenly, the agents began to receive strange signals. Disturbances in their communication systems, glitches in their navigational data. It was as if something was blocking their way. The closer they got, the stronger the disturbances became. Something, or someone, was interfering with their mission. Back on Earth, Emily and her team were working at a frantic pace. The window of time was closing fast. They had no idea how much longer they had before the galactic agents would strike. Their only hope now was to send a message to the secretive figure in the council who could potentially help them. It was a gamble, but it was their only chance. Emily sent the coordinates of their location and a plea for help. They were running out of time. Meanwhile, in the heart of the Galactic Council's command center, the young leader who had first felt the unease was now growing more anxious by the minute. He couldn't shake the feeling that the agents were walking into a trap. He had received the same strange signal from Earth and had tried to warn the Council, but his concerns had been dismissed. The destruction of Earth was going forward, and there was nothing he could do, or was there. As the fleet closed in on Earth, he made a decision that could cost him everything. He activated a hidden communication device, sending a coded message to the Earth team. He didn't know if they would receive it, but he had to try. He warned them. The ancient force is real. It's awakening. If you can stop them, you're the only chance we have. The message was brief, but it was enough. Earth's fate was no longer in the hands of the Galactic Council. It was now in the hands of the few who dared to fight back. The battle for survival had only just begun. The transmission from the young leader inside the Galactic Council had been brief, but its contents were clear. Earth was not facing just the threat of the Galactic Council's execution order, but something far darker, an ancient force that had been dormant for eons and was now awakening. Emily and her team had barely processed the message before they sprang into action. They knew that the stakes were higher than ever. The galactic agents were closing in on Earth, and now they were racing against time not just to survive, but to stop a power older than the galaxy itself from awakening. Emily's team worked furiously to decrypt every piece of information they had gathered, trying to make sense of the mysterious warnings and the alien transmissions. The message from the council leader had given them a new lead, something that had been overlooked before. The ancient force wasn't just a vague threat. It was a force tied to Earth's very existence. The energy signature that the agents had detected in the atmosphere wasn't just some anomaly. It was linked to something deep within Earth itself, something buried for millennia. But what was it? Emily's mind raced. Could the planet's hidden secrets be the key to stopping the ancient force? Was it possible that Earth had unknowingly been guarding something for centuries, something capable of either awakening the ancient threat or stopping it? As she pieced together the clues, a terrifying thought crossed her mind. What if Earth had been unknowingly protecting itself from this ancient power all along? And now, with the arrival of the galactic agents and the impending destruction of the planet, this ancient force was about to break free. She turned to her team. We need to find out what's buried under Earth's surface, and we need to do it quickly. Whatever it is, it's connected to everything. It could be the key to stopping this, if we can find it in time. But as they prepared for their search, the situation on Earth became more urgent. The galactic fleet had entered Earth's orbit, and the countdown to annihilation had begun. Satellites, weapons, and high-powered systems were already in place. All that was left was for the agents to complete their mission. The fleet was too powerful for Earth's forces to contend with. Their only hope lay in uncovering the truth behind the ancient power, and whether or not it could stop the destruction. Meanwhile, the galactic agents in orbit were experiencing disturbances of their own. The strange energy in the atmosphere had grown stronger. It was affecting their systems, causing malfunctions in their ships and communication equipment. The closer they got to Earth, the more they felt the pull of the mysterious force. It was as if the planet itself was alive, resisting their presence, pushing them away. In the command center of the galactic fleet, the lead agent, Commander Rix, looked out the observation window at the blue planet below. He was an experienced soldier, hardened by years of service, but something about Earth's energy unsettled him. He had been part of many missions, destruction, conquest, and order, but this felt different. The air was thick with tension, and the vibrations in the ship seemed to hum with a strange, unfamiliar frequency. The Annihilation protocol was supposed to be a quick and easy operation. The weapons were meant to wipe Earth off the map in a matter of hours. But now, Rix couldn't shake the feeling that something was off. Something had changed since they entered Earth's orbit. He turned to his second-in-command. "Something is wrong," Rix said, his voice low. "We're being pulled in. I can feel it. This isn't just about Earth anymore. Whatever is happening here, it's bigger than us." The second-in-command, a battle-hardened officer named Jorel, nodded grimly. "I've been sensing it too. Our systems are glitching. The closer we get, the worse it gets. It's almost like we're being drawn toward something." Rix gritted his teeth. He had been given orders, and he would follow them. But the warning from the young leader in the Galactic Council kept echoing in his mind. Stay focused. We have a job to do. But even as he said the words, he knew that they were not just dealing with an enemy. They were dealing with something beyond their understanding. The ancient force the young leader had spoken of was real, and it was awakening. Earth's survival was no longer just about avoiding the Galactic Council's weapons. It was about something far more dangerous, something that could consume the entire galaxy if left unchecked. Back on Earth, Emily and her team had managed to narrow down their search to a remote location deep in the mountains. The signals they had been tracking seemed to originate from here, and as they made their way to the site, they discovered something that no one had expected. It was an ancient structure, hidden beneath the surface of Earth for millennia. The structure was massive, its walls covered in strange symbols, some of which Emily had never seen before. The architecture was unlike anything from Earth's history. It looked alien, otherworldly, as if it had been built by a civilization long gone. This is it," Emily whispered, her voice trembling. "This is what we've been looking for." The team moved cautiously inside, their footsteps echoing in the silence. The walls were covered in symbols that pulsed faintly with energy. As they ventured deeper into the structure, Emily felt an overwhelming sense of awe and fear. It was as if the very air inside the structure was charged with a power that was both ancient and alive. The deeper they went, the stronger the pull became. Then they reached the heart of the structure. At the center was a massive chamber, and in the center of that chamber was a strange object, a crystal glowing with an eerie light. It seemed to pulse with energy, vibrating with a power that made the walls tremble. Emily felt an intense surge of energy radiating from it. She knew, without a doubt, that this was the source of the ancient force. It was the thing that had been sleeping beneath Earth for centuries, waiting for the right moment to awaken. The team gathered around the crystal, unsure of what to do. Emily's heart raced. If they could understand how the crystal worked, they might be able to stop the awakening force. But if they were wrong, if they disturbed it in the wrong way, the consequences could be catastrophic. Suddenly, Emily's communicator beeped. She looked at it, her eyes widening in shock. It was a message from the Galactic Council, an urgent transmission. The message was brief, but the meaning was clear. The destruction of Earth was about to begin. Time was running out. The agents were already in position, and the countdown had begun. Emily knew that if they didn't act fast, Earth would be wiped from existence before they could even understand the full scope of what was happening. The fate of the planet and the entire galaxy now rested in their hands. With trembling hands, Emily reached out toward the crystal, determined to uncover its secrets before it was too late. The battle for Earth's survival had entered its final stage, and she could only hope that what they had discovered in the heart of this ancient structure was enough to stop the inevitable. The ancient crystal pulsed with an eerie glow, filling the chamber with an otherworldly light that seemed to reverberate through the very air. Emily's hand hovered just above it, feeling the overwhelming energy radiating from within. Her heart raced, but her mind remained focused. She didn't know what this crystal was or how it worked, but she knew it was Earth's only hope. The message from the Galactic Council had made it clear. Destruction was imminent, and the agents were closing in fast. But now, with this discovery, she could feel that they were on the edge of something much larger than they had ever imagined. "Everyone, stay back," Emily whispered to her team. "I have to do this alone. We don't know what will happen if we disturb the crystal." The others nodded, their faces filled with a mixture of awe and fear. Emily could see the same question in their eyes. What if they'd made a mistake? What if disturbing the crystal triggered the very thing they were trying to stop? But there was no time to second-guess. They had no other choice. Taking a deep breath, Emily lowered her hand toward the crystal. The moment her fingers brushed against its surface, the room seemed to vibrate with a deep, resonating hum. The air around her thickened, almost like the very space itself was shifting, responding to her touch. The crystal began to glow brighter, its light filling the chamber. And for a moment, Emily felt a strange sense of connection, as though the entire structure, the planet, even the galaxy, was somehow linked together. A voice, ancient and unintelligible, whispered through her mind, and the weight of the knowledge it carried threatened to overwhelm her. Then, suddenly, the vision stopped, and the crystal's light faded. The connection broke, leaving Emily breathless and disoriented. The chamber was silent again, but something had changed. She could feel it, a subtle shift in the energy around them. A new presence, an ancient power awakening deep within the heart of the planet. The crystal wasn't just a source of power, it was a gate, a bridge between Earth and whatever force had been sleeping beneath its surface for eons. And now, that force was stirring, no longer dormant, but fully alive. Emily stumbled back from the crystal, her mind still reeling. What just happened? She muttered under her breath. The rest of the team rushed toward her, but they, too, could feel the change in the air. The atmosphere was thick with tension, and the ground beneath their feet seemed to vibrate with a low hum. "I don't know," Emily said, her voice shaking, "but I think we just unlocked something much bigger than we realized." As they tried to make sense of the situation, a loud noise echoed through the chamber. Something deep, something far below, a rumbling that grew louder with every passing second. It was as if the planet itself was waking up, responding to the crystal's activation. The walls of the structure began to tremble, and dust fell from the ceiling. Emily's heart skipped a beat. The energy they had just unleashed was far more powerful than she had imagined. It was as though Earth itself was reacting to the presence of the crystal, as if it were connected to the very core of the planet. But what had they awoken? Without warning, the communicator in Emily's pocket buzzed. She pulled it out quickly, her eyes widening as she read the message. It was from the Galactic leader, the one who had sent the initial warning. "You've activated the core. The awakening has begun. There's no turning back now. You must stop it before it consumes everything. The ancient force will be free. The galaxy will burn." The words sent a chill down Emily's spine. She had known something dangerous was buried beneath Earth, but now she understood just how much danger they were truly in. The ancient force, whatever it was, had been sealed away for a reason. And now that seal had been broken, Earth's fate, and the fate of the galaxy, was in their hands. "Emily, what does that message mean?" one of her colleagues, Ben, asked, his voice filled with urgency. "It means we've done something we didn't fully understand," Emily replied, her voice tense. "The ancient force is no longer contained. We've unlocked it, and it's awakening faster than we anticipated." As the rumbling beneath their feet grew stronger, the structure seemed to pulse with a rhythm of its own, as if it were alive, responding to the awakening force. Emily's mind raced. There had to be a way to stop it, some mechanism, some key to sealing it away again. They couldn't afford to fail. But just as she was about to speak, a voice crackled through their communications device. It was faint at first, then clearer, and it sent a wave of relief through Emily's chest. "Emily," the voice said, calm but urgent. "It's me, the leader inside the Galactic Council. I've been trying to help you. I've sent the coordinates to a hidden chamber beneath the structure where you are. It's the only place where the force can be contained. You have to get there now before it's too late." The message was brief, but the meaning was clear. There was a way to stop the ancient force, but they had no time to waste. The agents from the Galactic Council were still in orbit, and Earth's destruction was imminent. The only thing standing between survival and annihilation was reaching the chamber and using whatever mechanism it contained to seal the power away once more. "We need to move," Emily ordered, her voice firm. "We've got a window of opportunity, and it's closing fast. Get to the coordinates the leader sent. It's our only chance." Her team, now fully aware of the gravity of the situation, scrambled to gather their gear and make their way deeper into the structure. As they moved through the winding corridors, the tremors beneath them grew stronger. It felt as though the planet itself was fighting against their efforts. The closer they got to the chamber, the more the energy around them seemed to intensify. They were running out of time. Back in the command center of the Galactic fleet, Commander Rix watched from his ship as Earth's atmosphere flickered with strange, unnatural energy. His sensors were going haywire, and the mysterious disturbances were only growing worse. It was as if something was fighting back against their mission. "Commander," Gerald said urgently, "the energy levels are off the charts. We've never seen anything like this before. We need to act, or the mission will fail." Rix clenched his fists. He knew Earth's destruction was the only way to maintain order in the galaxy, but now he wasn't so sure. The message from the young leader had lingered in his mind, and the strange energy emanating from the planet made him uneasy. If there was one thing he knew, it was that he couldn't allow Earth to fall into the hands of whatever ancient force had been unleashed. "Wait," Rix said suddenly. "Something's happening down there. The energy is coming from within the planet. We need to change our approach. Prepare to alter the mission parameters." It was a decision that could cost him everything. But for the first time in his career, Rix wasn't sure if the mission to destroy Earth was the right choice. There was something more important now, a far more dangerous force awakening beneath the surface. Emily's team had reached the hidden chamber. But would they be in time to stop the awakening force, or would Earth and the galaxy be lost forever? The clock was ticking. The hidden chamber was vast, its walls carved from stone, but the air within it hummed with energy. The floor was smooth and even, an eerie glow lighting the edges of the room. The crystal's power seemed to pulse stronger as they entered, like the chamber itself was alive, reacting to their presence. Emily and her team stood at the threshold, the weight of the situation pressing down on them with every breath. They had to act quickly, but there was still so much they didn't understand. "We're almost there," Emily whispered, though her voice didn't sound as certain as she felt. She had never been one to doubt herself, but the intensity of what they were dealing with made every decision feel like a gamble. "We don't know what we're dealing with, but we have to trust that this is the only way." Her team nodded in agreement, though their eyes betrayed their fear. This was the final stretch, and every second counted. At the center of the chamber, a pedestal stood, its surface carved with symbols and grooves that matched the markings found near the crystal. The moment Emily set foot on the floor inside, the energy around them grew stronger, vibrating with a force that made her skin tingle. The air felt charged, like static before a thunderstorm, and every instinct in her body screamed that this was a threshold they couldn't cross lightly. Yet there was no turning back. "It's here," Ben said, scanning the room. His voice was tense. "This is it." Emily's eyes were drawn to a hollow space at the center of the pedestal. There, nestled in a cradle of stone, lay a strange device. It was small, perhaps no bigger than a human hand, and it seemed to pulse with a dark energy, as if it were somehow alive. It wasn't like any Earth technology. She could tell that much instantly. It felt alien, ancient. The moment her gaze met it, a strange compulsion urged her to move forward, as though the device were calling to her. "This is the key," Emily whispered, stepping toward the pedestal. She reached out, her fingers brushing the edges of the device. As soon as she touched it, a rush of images filled her mind. Visions of ancient civilizations, their once great cities now lost to time, their people long gone. She saw flashes of stars, galaxies, and blackened voids, all tied together by an unearthly, haunting melody. The visions seemed to come from the depths of time itself, reaching out from places that no human mind had ever touched. And then, as quickly as it had come, it stopped. Emily stumbled back, her heart racing. The device was cold in her hand, but it burned with an intense, untapped power that she could feel even in her bones. She stared at it, trembling. This device, this was the key to containing the ancient force. But would it be enough? Would it even work? "Emily," then began, his voice filled with uncertainty. "What now? How do we use it?" She didn't know. She didn't have all the answers. But one thing was clear. the crystal, the device, the strange power beneath Earth's surface. It all pointed to this moment. They had unlocked something dangerous, something powerful, and now they had to use it to seal the force away once again before it destroyed everything. "I don't know," Emily replied, her voice quiet but resolute. "But I think we have to activate it here, in the heart of this chamber. We need to channel its energy and use it to lock away whatever is trying to awaken." Her hand shook as she held the device, knowing that what came next could either save the planet or doom them all. She wasn't sure what would happen when she activated it, but there was no time to waste. The Galactic fleet was still waiting, their weapons primed, their agents closing in on Earth. The destruction of the planet could be only minutes away. Taking a deep breath, Emily placed the device on the pedestal. The symbols around the room seemed to pulse with light, responding to the device's presence. As the device settled into place, a deep hum filled the air, and the walls of the chamber began to shake violently. Dust fell from the ceiling, and a crackling sound filled the space, like the energy in the room was about to break free. "This is it," Emily muttered under her breath. She stepped back quickly as the device began to glow. She didn't know how long she had, but she could already feel the energy building, surging through the air like a tide ready to crash. The hum grew louder, the air thickening with power. The stone walls trembled, and the ground beneath their feet seemed to shift, as though the planet was fighting to prevent what was happening. Emily's heart raced. It felt as though the very fabric of reality was stretching, bending, and she feared for a moment that they might have triggered something far worse than they had realized. Suddenly, the energy around the device surged, and a burst of light erupted from the pedestal. Emily and her team were thrown back as a shockwave blasted outward, sending them sprawling to the floor. The walls shook violently, and the air became impossibly thick with energy. It was like nothing Emily had ever felt before, a strange, suffocating force that pulled at her very soul. But then, just as quickly, everything stopped. The chamber fell silent. The vibrations stopped. The light from the device dimmed, and the air grew still. Emily pushed herself up, her heart pounding in her chest. She glanced around at her team. Then, Lila and the others were all shaken, but alive. They had survived. But was it enough? Had they stopped the ancient force from awakening? Before she could voice the question, her communicator buzzed to life. It was the Galactic leader, the one who had been secretly helping them from within the council. His voice came through the speaker, urgent and relieved. "You did it," he said. "The ancient force has been contained. The crystal's power is sealed, and the galaxy is safe. For now." Emily let out a breath she didn't realize she had been holding. They had done it. Earth had been saved, and the galaxy would not fall into chaos. But as she looked around the chamber, the weight of everything they had just uncovered began to settle on her. The crystal, the force, the Galactic Council's execution order. It was all part of something much larger than they had ever imagined. But for now, Earth was safe, and they had one chance to rebuild. Behind her, the chamber's walls dimmed, their glow fading. The energy had been sealed, and for the first time in what felt like forever, the world felt still. The nightmare had been averted, but Emily knew that this was only the beginning. The galaxy had been given a second chance, and they had only just uncovered the tip of the iceberg. As they made their way out of the chamber, the team knew their journey wasn't over. There were more secrets buried deep within Earth, and more challenges to face. But for the first time in what seemed like forever, they could breathe easy. The battle had been won, but the war had only just begun.